Hi, welcome to another episode of Workman Wisdom. I'm Mark Ryan. Today we're going to talk about teams. Going to talk about the structure of the teams. Obviously, there's lots of different options that you could do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we run our team and how I think is one of the better ways to do it. Start with an administrative assistant. So once you're doing more than you can handle, then you need an administrative assistant to help do the stuff that isn't really money-making activities, those back-end things. Next, then add buyer agents. That's very time consuming. So you can scale listings much better by adding adding administrative help to do those kind of tasks. You could have 100 listings, you couldn't really work with 100 buyers. So start filling those so you can buy your time back with the buyer agents. Then add the more support, so the contract to close, so to take that piece of the puzzle off of the table. The way we look at it is, I want my buyer agents out doing what they do best. They should be out there, generating buyers, working those buyers, writing contracts, negotiating them. But all of that contract to close, the inspections, the negotiation of those problems, mortgage appraisals, all of those things can be handled by somebody on the back end. Then next, options on how you're going to set up your team. So in my opinion, we really want to bring value, and that's a big portion of our value proposition to those potential buyer agent prospects. So first, leads. So having listings obviously generates leads, but along with that, what are you going to do to bring in those leads? You're going to have a high volume lead platform like Boomtown or Commissions Inc., Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. Where are those leads coming from? So every 25 leads you're generating each month, that allows for another buyer agent on the team. Then again, talking about listings, that's value for a buyer agent. Agents that are considering being on a team typically aren't ones that are big producers on their own. So the more listings you can bring, the more opportunities that means for them. So having a lot of listings is important. Then the structure of the team, that helps them. That's part of the value we bring is by having, we do a daily huddle, we do a weekly meeting, it kind of flows then into the training, but all of that is much different than a typical brokerage. Now you're truly a team. They're able to be a specialist in doing buyers. I specialize in the selling side, and then the training. So my role with them becomes really their mentor, their coach, and focusing on growing them and growing the business. So it's a much more intimate relationship that they have than being on their own. So that's, again, part of that value proposition that we're bringing to them is, I don't care how much the broker cares about you or likes you, I'm going to take that phone call at 11 o'clock on a Friday night because I know it's my team that needs those answers. Then the training, make sure you have those things in place for them so that, one, they're doing things by your core values, the way you want them done. So that's what we covered during each of our weekly team meetings, is making sure that we're reviewing those kind of things. Support. So again, it's much different. With a team, we look at it as much more of a family. So if the buyer agent needs to go on vacation, they could always get somebody in the brokerage to kind of cover their business. But with a team, it's much more important. I'm looking after my income and theirs. I don't care if it's your best friend. If they have a problem with their transaction, they're going to naturally take care of theirs before they would take care of yours. So that's, again, a big part of that. So it's the support if they need to take a vacation. They know that they're not just gone. There's nobody looking after their business. There is. Also, just having other people to kind of commiserate with and talk about things. Oftentimes those questions that come up in a transaction aren't really your broker kind of questions. They're just, you need to run things by somebody, and having that person that you can say, hey, the buyer wants this written in the contract. How do we phrase that? We need to change this. This is what they want. Does this really say that? So all of that really brings value to those buyer agent prospects for you. And then once they're on your team, to make sure they're happy and they stay with you. The other thing being the contract to close. So that's, if you're a really good salesperson, you're probably not going to be really good at the paperwork. So by taking that off the table and letting them focus on just doing what they do best, generate buyers, write those contracts, and then move on to the next one and let that contract to close handle it. So the way we structure our team is that contract to close is their point person during that piece, but the buyer agent's always available if either the contract to close manager needs them or the client has a concern that they need to talk with them about, so they don't completely go away, but now we have a different point person. Then come closing time, the buyer agent steps back in, goes to closing, gets the hugs and the high fives, and is able to kind of close that gap and look for referrals and all of that. Finally, then going on to pay, a couple things there. It's really important, and I've learned when you're recruiting agents, is not to focus on split, but focus on the income that they can earn. They think split because that's all most people ever talk about is split, split, split. It's much more important what they can make versus what the split percentage is. So the important thing is don't overpay. Let me show you real quick, though, how I present this to the buyers. So basically the way or to the buyer agents rather, the way we look at it is there's kind of 3/3 of the transaction. So the first third is generating the leads. So nothing happens until you have somebody to talk to. So it doesn't matter how good of an agent they are. If they don't have leads, somebody to talk to, then nothing else really matters after that. So we handle, as the team, the vast majority of that first third of the transaction. So we do the vast majority. The second third is then when they're with the client. So they convert the lead, they go out and show them homes, they write contracts. They do the vast majority of that, but we're still instrumental. We give them all the literature, having the team, the higher ranking in the board, all of those types of things helps them land them, but they do the vast majority of that. Then the final third is that contract to close piece again. So again, they're still involved, and if it gets tricky or they need to step back in, they do. But again, we handle the vast majority of that piece. So we're doing the vast majority of 2/3 of the transaction, but yet they're only doing 1/3 of the work effectively. But we pay them, and what Workman Success Systems recommends is that you net at least 50% back to the team. So a little bit on how we pay is we pay on a tiered system because we like to reward them as they sell more. So we pay it quarterly. The first 9 transactions is at 45%, then 10, 11, and 12 is at 50%, and 13 or above would be at 55%. Now that's of the net. So that's after the brokerage takes their piece. If there's a referral fee, that comes off of there. But it gives them, again, they're still getting at least 45% of the income to only do 1/3 of the work. So that's a good way for the potential person you're talking to understand that dynamic of how they're going to be paid versus what the amount of work they're going to do and the value that you bring to it. So hopefully that was helpful. You guys have a great day.